And now, aviation weather around Alaska. The weekend is here, and let's take a look at your flight weather. If you have a flight planned Saturday or Sunday, low pressure will be situated just south of the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island early Saturday, with a frontal system extending to the north and east. We expect IFR conditions there on the North Pacific side of the peninsula, pockets of IFR across areas of the southeast interior mountains, Wrangell, St. Elias Mountains down through the northern panhandle. IFR, lower ceilings, some fog up there along the Arctic coast, Beaufort Sea, also extending from St. Lawrence down through St. Matthew, St. Paul, and then across a good portion of the Aleutian chain. Saturday afternoon could see a few scattered thunderstorms pop up with the daytime heating, afternoon, evening there. Eastern Yukon Flats, 40-mile gold country out toward the Alaska-Canadian border, as well as the lower Yukon, upper Kuskokwim basins in the southwest interior. Sunday morning, areas of IFR along the inner coastal mountains, inner channels there of the Panhandle, southwestern Gulf, especially down along the east side of Kodiak Island, again along areas of the Beaufort-Chukchi Seas through the Bering Strait, and the western half of the Bering Sea and much of the central and western Aleutians. A few more scattered storms could redevelop on Sunday afternoon across the Yukon Flats down toward the 40-mile gold country. Otherwise, we expect IFR to be occurring across the lower southwestern Gulf, especially just offshore of the Kenai Peninsula and Kodiak Island, also up along the Beaufort Sea, and then across much of the central and lower Bering, including the central and western Aleutians. So past conditions Saturday in the Brooks Range, Anatuvik Pass, as well as Adigan Pass, we'll see MVFR conditions becoming VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill in the west arm there of the Alaska Range, MVFR to VFR. On Saturday, same thing as we go rainy on up through Windy Pass in the central Alaska Range, MVFR to VFR conditions on Saturday. Isabel starting out with MVFR, giving way to VFR. Mentasta should generally hold on to MVFR conditions, though IFR conditions could linger out toward the northern portion of the Copper River Basin toward the Wrangell Mountains. And then Tanita Pass, generally MVFR becoming VFR. And Portage Pass will start out early Saturday, MVFR, trying to give way to VFR, though MVFR conditions will linger out across a good portion of Prince William Sound. Chilkoot and White in the northern panhandle expect IFR early in the morning, lifting to MVFR as we go through the midday and afternoon. Freezing levels are lowest across the areas of the Russian Arctic coast. Otherwise, they bump up to generally 6,000 to 8,000 feet through the southwestern half of the mainland to 10,000 feet, Yukon Flats, eastern Brooks Range. Lower down here over the north central Gulf Coast, and then as we go down toward, associated with the area of low pressure and warmer air ahead of that, south of the Alaska Peninsula with freezing levels of 8,000 to 10,000 feet. Greatest threat for icing on Saturday, some moderate icing associated with the frontal system in low that's sitting there south of the Alaska Peninsula with the front draped and pushing slowly north and northeastward up along the Alaska Peninsula above 6,000 and above 8,000 feet, especially in areas of the North Pacific south of the peninsula. Upper level jet stream is strongest over British Columbia coming from Dixon entrance. This is at 30,000 feet. We have winds in excess of 100 knots. Bring it down to 700 millibars. We have a low circulation, the more dominant low, just south of the eastern Aleutians with a counterclockwise circulation, southerly south-southeast flow over the Alaska Peninsula, and then turning northeasterly over the central Aleutians. At 3,000 feet, the strongest winds are located from across the Alaska Peninsula, then coming up from the southeast to south, around 45 to as high as 55 knots. So as we would expect, this is the area with any sort of mixing. The greatest threat of some moderate turbulence will exist along pretty much the length of the Alaska Peninsula from Bristol Bay and areas of Kodiak Island southwestward into the eastern and even central Aleutians, and we'll find bumpy conditions surface to 3,000 feet over the central and eastern Aleutians, and a little higher surface to 4,000 feet as you ride up along the Alaska Peninsula up toward Kodiak Island. But the Rest of the interior mainland winds should be relatively light with little threat of any significant turbulence. And overall, the weather here, other than some scattered showers and thunderstorms that could pop up with the daytime heating either on Saturday or Sunday, we expect VFR conditions to be the rule there, especially across areas of the interior mainland here over the course of the weekend.